Welcome to Talking Back to Suicide. Here is Kino Isaac, co-host coming from South Africa, and I'm Dr. Diane Kaufman, retired child psychiatrist, poet, artist, founder, director of the Hold On campaign for suicide prevention that uses the power of art to educate, connect, express, and heal. And we're delighted to have with us today Dr. Zabina Bassin, a child and adolescent psychiatrist, affectionately known as Dr. Z, who is a global champion for youth voices and mental well being. A Cornell educated expert, she's the visionary founder and driving force behind In Kids, a pioneering ed tech company committed to championing multicultural education and emotional wellness for children. She speaks and consults on a wide range of topics related to child development, anti bullying, resilience, parenting, and the educational and societal challenges facing children and adolescents today. And she's been featured on Good Morning America, Today Parents, and Good Morning New York, recognized by Forbes Next 1000 Entrepreneurs, and honored as a champion of diversity and inclusion at the Toy of the Year Awards. Her leadership also extends beyond youth advocacy. She's a board director for the Toy Association, United Sikhs, and Concordia, shaping policies and innovations that impact millions. Her passionate mission is to ignite global movement where children feel seen, heard, and empowered. Welcome, Dr. Z, to Talking Back to Suicide.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yes. So, how we're gonna jump right in, right? In terms of mental health well-being, some would say the children are not well, right? If the second leading cause of death for youth 10 and upwards to 34 years old is suicide, something is dramatically wrong, right? What do you feel we're not listening to? What are the factors leading young people, middle-aged people, older people to take their own lives?
So, the work we do at Listen to the Kids really is generational, right? It is an intergenerational conversation. It is a conversation not only with parents and their children, but it's adults and anyone working with a child, right? Or a youth or a young adult. Because you made a very specific thing. It's 10 years old to 15 years old. Then there's like 17 to 22. Then there's 23 to 20. Now you have adults who come from different mental health diagnoses that are also discussing suicide, who are not getting the wellness help that they need, right? So what we do is we launch this conversation of the ABC dialogue and the communication between two individuals, right? We work with young youth kids right now. But what does that mean when you start a conversation or a communication in listening to these children is then you start seeing that in every generation as they grow. And then we change how we learn to communicate. How does that help suicide prevention is they can actually go to someone and trust them. With a world that we live now in technology, and I'm not going to specify like, is it just social media? Is it chat GPT? Is it AI? In a world we live in where these young youth have so much access, even adults have so much access, we have forgotten to communicate with the person who is the trainer, which is the therapist or the adult or the individual who could actually give them and bring them back to not having those suicidal and suicidal ideation thoughts. They go to technology. So what are we missing? We're missing that communication. We're missing listening skills. We're missing the art of listening and the art of communication because we don't go to other people. There are three reasons why we don't go to other people. One, we are afraid because there's going to be judgment. We are judgmental human race. I mean, you would just have a simple conversation right now with someone, and someone's going to start judging just the way I look before I actually come and have a conversation with you. My glasses are too big, my neck is crooked, my nose is crooked, I'm wearing a weird shirt with a weird sweater. That judgment is already there. So let's see how. Second is, we don't give the other individual more than 30 seconds to just be quiet and listen. We want to interrupt, we want to resolve, we want to create a resolution to something. And third and most important is, as we are listening, not hearing, those are two different things. Hearing someone and listening to someone. There is an art and there is a trait in that. You can be trained in that. You can be trained to listen to someone. We have to define and distinguish the differences in the two before we launch the conversation. So simple things are, when you go into a conversation, don't be judgmental. You have to be unjudgmental, and you have to just shut off your brain. So we call it the ABC of the dialogue, right? And then create yourself into that, I call it like the morning show host, like the Phil Donahue or the Oprah. Be quiet and listen. Take it in. And then third and most, make sure whatever you're hearing and listening to them, you're actually going to repeat back to them. Because now you've given that person whatever time they need to just let it all out. They actually feel self-satisfied. They feel like, oh my God, I just said it all without anyone interrupting, asking me a question, or resolving the issue. Now I can hear back from that person and listen to them. But that's what we're missing. We're missing human connection, we're missing communication connection, and we're missing the fact that we have to learn to listen to people.
Is it getting worse? Was there ever a time that people were listening to each other?
I don't think we've ever actually had a time when they listened to each other. I think the world would have been a very different place. I think what the goal we are trying to do at Listen to the Kids is launch it with our young youth and our children and our younger adults to see if we can create this generational change. It's like anything, like we say in mental health, it takes 21 days to get rid of an addiction, right? It takes 21 days also to create a habit. So if we start teaching our young kids starting in elementary school and middle school, then you'll see the habit be formed. But if we don't do it now, and if we don't show it now, we're never going to have that change. It was never there.
Thinking, what was the story of the Tower of Babel, right? People not getting along, right? And then there's a zillion amplification of differences and lack of communication. But Dr. Z, what about the school system? Aren't they teaching, empowering youth to listen to each other and respond to each other, as well as, of course, adults listening to kids, adults listening?
The experience that I've had in schools is the teachers are blown away when we bring the program in and they actually hear their students speak and open up and have a interactive communication. So that means no, they're not doing it. But how much more are we going to put on our teachers, right? I think they're trying to have a standard that they have to live up to, that the state or the government or the school system puts on them. Where is the time? I mean, I say this all the time. We don't have emotional wellness classes. We don't teach our children how to be mindful. We don't teach them how to be empathetic. We don't teach them how to listen. And we don't give them skills to become adults. We are set by a standard of rules that the government or the school system sends or district sets, and they have to follow that. If you go beyond that, there's so much red tape across our country and across our school districts that you can't bring those in. But I have to say, unfortunately, being a US citizen and born and raised in this country, I had to teach myself that, and I teach that now to other people. But countries around the globe set those standards as the first standards before education. How do we raise a human being before we raise an intelligent human being or an educated human being? I don't understand how we're missing that here when we call ourselves a powerful country.
The lack of all the things that you just shared, it feels like a recipe for disaster.
as we're seeing. And that's where suicide ideation comes in, because if we have now told young kids that their voices don't matter, well, what happens as they get older? As physicians, we know that the mind then starts playing more and more and more subconscious ideations with them that they don't matter and they don't have a being in this world. And so what's the best thing next to do? Well, if I don't exist, why does it matter?
What you're sharing reminds me, Dr. Z, of many years ago in Newark, New Jersey. I collaborated with a seventh grade teacher at Hawkins Street School, and we how can I say this? Provided an opportunity for seventh and eighth grade students to share through poetry their deepest feelings. And it was the title of the evening poetry event, of which there were about 70 youth participating, and in the audience were parents, grandparents, siblings. And it was called I Hear My Community Singing. And I can remember parents sharing how they had never, in a sense, heard, or the better word is listened to
Right.
their children that way. And the children were given the opportunity and the permission through a poetic language, right? To express what was really going on for them. It was heartbreaking and heart moving. And I remember the youth wrote letters about it, and the parents wrote about what the experience was like for them. And there were some kids that wrote that this was life changing for me. Although I have to say, one event does not necessarily change your life, but it
No.
opens up a window that this is
Right.
possible.
Right.
Could you say more about specifically how you contact schools or enter schools or other community organizations that you work with? And then what do you specifically do in those sessions to create the environment for listening?
So this past year we haven't done anything because we've noticed in the education system, unfortunately, with what the federal government has removed so much of the economic statuses for the schools and school districts. It's been really hard this year for people to bring in. But what we've done is we've been contacted by a teacher or by a school or by an opportune person to say, hey, we'd like to bring this in. We then create it in three ways, right? One is subject matter. So the teacher comes to us and says, we want to discuss this. How do we bring this into the classroom and have an open-ended conversation? So we come in for a one-day dialogue with the students. Remember, we're peer-to-peer. We do not bring the adults in. My conversations don't happen with the adults until after I have had a whole round of conversations with the students or the kids. Or again, it's not just schools, whether it's musical theater programs, whether it's sports, the individual adult has come to us to say, hey, we're having this troublesome situation and we need to figure out how to communicate either our rules and regulations or what is going on with these kids. So then we go in and then there's an adult side to this too, which is when we go into corporate offices or we go into businesses and work with HR, how do you communicate in interview sessions? But we sit with all of the kids and we talk about a topic. So whether it's diversity, whether it's bullying, whether it's, my teacher doesn't listen, or, we'll have specific topics, or we're outraged right now that the school is doing this, or we don't feel like we're always on the bench and the coach doesn't look at us. So it just is specific to that. Then we go in and we will create questions to bring out the students or the young youth, their conversation. And what's the most interesting that happens is, remember, the adults are not in the room. It's just me or another colleague of mine. And then they just talk. It takes a minute or two because you need to get one of those kids to just start talking, and then you do it. And you have a list of questions based off of what the topic at hand is. Remember, we've gone in and we've talked about suicide ideation. We've talked about bullying. We've talked about even, management of wealth in how people feel about in the schools or in different programs that they feel that the wealthy students are getting more than the underprivileged students are. So there are so many conversations there. Then what we do is we grab that information, we then accumulate it, right? And then take it to the adults at hand. So let's say it's the teachers, the principals, the coaches, the trainees, whoever we're discussing this with. And we say, here's your problematic situations. These are what you're facing. Now, here is what the students has come up with as resolutions to help navigate this space. Now let's integrate it within what your rules and regulations are. Because what the students mostly feel is, oh, there's all these rules and regulations, but nothing helps us. Nobody's being reprimanded for anything. Nobody wants to talk to the adults because they have no trust and faith in them. And this is generic across the board. And nobody feels like if they actually bring a problem to the adults or to the administration or to the coach or to whoever is in charge, that anything will be done about it. Again, across the board subject matter. Then we say to them, here's your problems. Well, then we have all the feedback from the adults, right? Oh, well, they don't do this and they don't do that. And I said, in this conversation that I have brought to you, did you hear anything or did you listen to anything? And now we actually start the intergenerational conversation between the young youth and the adult. Because the problem is, there is complain more on one side than there is always on the other side. And if we don't actually take both of the sides and hear and listen out what they're saying, you're not having any resolution or any conversation. Now you're having complication. I don't like to say, argumentation, because then you're going to have, you have to be able to hear this side's opinion versus this side's opinion to say we have to agree to disagree. But we are all on the same page that we want a resolution. So now how do we make those steps? By listening to what these youth have said, and also what we need to create so we can create the right guidance as adults for this youth generation. Again, we have to recognize people don't change. The time is changing. What we were taught as young youth is the same thing right now our youth are being taught. But the access to what this generation has, we did not have. Hence why we're always like, oh, they're lazy. They think they know everything. They don't want to hear us out. They just don't understand that, what it is to be an adult. Well, when they become adults, it's not going to be the same way now that we have it. So we've got to create those correct guidances based on what their access is also and what their needs are right now.
What do you see the needs are?
So, for example, let's just talk about, and again, this is different from every demographic, every social economic status, and everything. So give me an example so then we can kind of communicate on that. I would love to, what do you feel as a child and adolescent psychiatrist or somebody who works with youth you think is their number one problem that they should fix or we should fix for them?
I would say around being valued as a human being.
Right. They don't even understand what that means. Who has actually sat down and asked them the question, what does it mean to be valued as a person or a human being? I could sit in a room of 60 parents and none of them have asked their kids that. I could sit in a room of 60 teachers and none of them have asked their kids. Maybe 2, maybe 3 average would raise their hands. So to resolve that issue, there are multitudes of things that the youth has access to. Social media, AI, television, magazine article. I mean, now they're not magazine articles, now they're video articles. And what they value as a person is what they see now, not what they hear. Because nobody's actually sat down and said, what do you need for me to help you value you as a person? What can I
do to value yourself?
Right. What can I change to help you value yourself as a person? Because we put the burden back on them. Why? They don't even know what it means. We're the adults. The one thing I think we also have to remember is the adults in the room have to still be adults and stop blaming the access to what they have and the children or the youth to what they're doing.
Could you give some examples of that blaming
Absolutely.
words and behavior?
Yeah. So, for example, we're going to go to the topic that everyone loves to discuss, which is social media and phones. And I feel like when phones came out, so I have a generation right below me, which is, I guess you call them the millennials, right? And then you have the Gen Zs right below that. That generation received phones probably when they were really early on, like, 8, 9, 14, 15. The smartphones came out, I want to say if you guys can know the dates, I want to say like early 2000s, when it was like a big deal, right? They were handed these phones and they were just like, here you go, here's these phones. Here's what's happening. And then the generations after kept getting it. So now we've handed phones, social media, access to a whole technological world that I don't think the adults who were even handing it to them knew what they were giving them. Then what happened was there was created a space of, oh, this generation has attitude. They're doing this. They're getting access to these things that are wrong. People are finding them. This is not appropriate. This is wrong. That conversation hasn't changed from the time those kids had it to now who the Gen Alphas have it. Okay. So now we have this conversation. Here's the new conversation. Oh, don't give your 14-year-old phone. Don't, hand them social media. Don't give them technology. Don't leave it in the schools. Don't have Google anywhere. They're going to get access to this because the world is made of technology right now. What are we, the adults, doing to give them the right guidances, the right rules and regulations, the right boundaries to use these items, whether it's your computer, whether it's your thing? We as the adults have blamed them and shamed them since the 2000s, and now we're telling them all of these things: suicide ideation, mental health issues, everything is to blame. And it's not me. I didn't do it. The adult didn't do it. The parent didn't do it. The teacher didn't do it. The creator didn't do it. The technology did it, and the kids are looking at it. So you want them to value themselves, but you don't want to sit down and talk to them. You don't want to give them any type of guidance. And you also want to create a blame and shame game. So to value you, you have to uplift yourself, but you're shaming them and you're blaming them for mistakes that they don't have any control over. And then you're saying through books and experts and everyone else, here is the phone. Do not give it to your 14-year-old. I'm sorry, there are school shootings. I am a mom who works 3 jobs. I have 4 kids. My eldest child needs a phone, who is in middle school or high school, so I can have access to them, so I can have access to the rest of my children. There's no such thing as home phones anymore. I wish there was. Everyone uses a phone. And unfortunately, capitalism has created that corporate telephone systems like T-Mobile, AT&T, they're very smart. To buy one of those flip phones is more expensive than to get 4 smartphones. So now it's a demographic and a financial issue. But we're burdening these youth by telling them you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And we as the adults who are sitting here and saying, okay, let's set some boundaries. Let's give them some rules. Let's sit together and figure out how to work this. We're just saying, here's the candy, but now I'm going to take it away from you. And you have to figure out how to live your life now. I'm not going to give you mental health help. I'm not going to give you access to anyone to talk to, whether it's your peers who actually give you maybe some advice or some sound advice. And then I'm going to, again, I go back to, I'm going to blame and shame you because it's your fault.
Nodding my head. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know I come across a little abrupt, but we've got to have a reality check here. I have the utmost respect for these experts and these people who write books. Well, go sit down with 12 kids, not 12 adults, and ask them what they're going through before you create all these rules and regulations that you have no idea what a child or a young adult needs.
Can you give some examples, real life examples of changes that teachers made or administration made following the conversations?
Well, one of the teachers started utilizing the question peer-to-peer questions, like sitting down. I call it the circle time effect, but you can do it at any age. Everyone says, oh, we only do it in kindergarten or preschool. No, you launch the day with a question to value the fact of what the conversation should last. Or one of the things that we saw in two of the schools that we'd worked with, which is creating the peer counseling and the peer, it's not student council, but we call it as the peer judgment group. Like it's a, how do I explain it? Every school has a different name, but we used to call it where it was like you have the judge who is a student and then you have two lawyers, mock trial type of attitude. But it was really, this was how it is, but it was a peer judgment that was done over a school decision that had to be made towards what the youth was going through. So they actually had the peers listen to the kids and then create a consequence or whatever it was. Now these aren't really big cases like you have someone who's physically hurt someone or something like that. Those are like regulations you have to follow by the school district. But these were like, okay, this was a confrontation you had and this was unacceptable, and now we are going to give you the consequence. Not the student council, not the PTO, not the administration. This was a peer group that did it with you. Then you have, this was the one thing that I loved. One teacher actually put a box. So you guys have seen in schools question boxes all the time where students, but nobody answers those. Nobody does anything. She answered those questions every day on a daily basis. Every single day. Because that what showed her students was, I am listening to you. I am giving you the conversation back, and then we can have a dialogue. Now, if someone wrote private on there, she would call that student and have it a one-to-one listening session with them. She didn't call it a teacher student. She called it a listening session because her point was, I'm listening to you. And there's not a lot of changes that happen immediately. There's a lot of red tape in schools. That's the unfortunate part. They can only do so much. And again, I go back to it. How much can teachers do?
What do they say? It takes a village or more to raise a child. Maybe that's also what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
With this, to work with the school and other opportunities to enhance listening and respect. You know, I'm thinking about the tragedy that happened recently, right? Minneapolis, where a very troubled young person, right, ended up shooting through the stained glass windows of the church and ended up killing two youth and injuring many others. And was it the first day of school? It was also
like
this
the first week of school, I think it was. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that in terms of the fear, the mental health? You know,
I have to tell you, I spoke on this on social media that my children a week, like 4 days before that or something, had a lockdown at their school, like a real lockdown. There was a bag or something. Okay, so there's two parts of this. There's the shooter, and then there's the kids that are affected by it, right? Or the staff and everyone. I don't know what that school is doing. I don't know that. But there's so much talk on where are the counselors, where are the people in the aftermath, where is everyone who is coming into the conversation and doing the after work with them? Because I've heard students who've had since Columbine, since since 20 years now that we had in 2012 the shooting. Those kids are adults and they're still suffering because their parents had to get them therapy. In our school, I have been fighting for mental health workers to come in, for a mental health advocate to be there. Who talked to these? I went to the district and I literally got back, oh, talk to the principal. We have someone coming. Do you know the students have told me nobody's talked to them? The teachers never said anything. Nobody's had a conversation about the lockdown. My children, and I know multiple children who are still like, oh my God, if something happens, what happens? What if this happened? And then literally 4 days later, there was a shooting. Now, I don't know what that school's doing. And again, I can't speak on that because I'm not involved in it. I hope to God we have aftercare. But from what I've heard in previous years, there is no aftercare. Those students don't have an ability unless the parents take their kids to therapists. And then you're putting them on television, telling their story over and over and over again. What do you think that's doing to them?
Are we
This is how
are we a
this
society in denial?
No, I don't think we're in denial. We're a society that likes hype, wants to hear it, likes excitement. And it doesn't matter at what cost we get it and who we're getting it for or from. Now, on the other side with the shooter, I have said this constantly. The shooters that we have that are, I obviously don't have mental health issues. I can't speak on everyone. Those ones who have mental health issues, there's no access for help for them. And then we, the therapists, get blamed. Well, why didn't you say something? And because you may have come from 1 or 2 sessions and you can't diagnose or treat someone within that 1 or 2. You have to consistently give people help. I don't know the backstory. I've heard multiple things that, he was a trans kid. He didn't want to be trans. He did want to be. Then he had bullying issues. I don't know what the real story is because I don't believe what the media says anyways. I know he had a lot of hate in him. And that hate is not ingrained or born. That's created. That hate was created over and over and over again by trauma that this child and then as a young adult went through. You don't not like someone or you don't go after people just because, and some cases are there where you have, obviously, we know in diagnoses you have sociopaths and certain things like that. But majority of these shooters have mental health issues. And them getting access to AK-47s and rifles like that blows my mind away. So both sides, the ones who obviously have gone through the trauma now, the young children, we're not helping them. I don't know if they're getting any help. And I know right now in our school district, there is no help and they have lockdowns. And then I know the ones who are creating the trauma to these kids, the shooters, where's the help that was there for any help previous to this to prevent it? It's funny. Insurance companies say that prevention is better than cure. You should go out and get yourself checked. It's like your body, your health. What about mental health? Even for cancer mental health patients, they say you have to go see a therapist and a psychologist. What you're going through is traumatic on your body and it will affect your mental health. Where's the prevention for mental health patients?
Dr. Z, in the midst of all the need and all the obstacles, what do we do?
We keep fighting. I don't stop. Just because now schools can't afford us, I find a new way to reach out. My goal is to reach out to the kids. I want to be their champion for the adults. I want them to say, Dr. Z, this is my issue, and I need you to be my intergenerational communicator with the adult that I'm dealing with. We keep moving forward. We keep trying our best, and we pass it down to others so that they can help as well. I'm one person right now, but I can keep putting my message out there and seeing who else wants to learn how to create more listening to the kids' projects. And I will give you, those kind of avenues to help.
What are your thoughts?
Dr. Z has a lot on her plate. That's what I can start off with saying. The overall goal for all of us, especially with what you're trying to do, Dr. Z, it's like so ambitious, but so needed and so important. With the school system and the red tape, it's not only in the state, it's also in South Africa, it's around the world. For me, it's a global pandemic with what is happening. And as you said, teachers can't do much. And I'm going to be controversial in what I'm about to say here, but this is just how the system has been designed.
Right.
The system hasn't been designed to assist children, with your mandate. It's not designed. I mean, there's teachers that just don't want to go further and above to actually listen. What you said about differentiating between hearing and listening, 100%. We can sit and have a conversation, but am I really listening to what you're telling me? It's global. It really
Mhm,
is global,
mhm.
and I'm with you on it. All we can do is wake up each and every single day and just do our best. But it's such an ambitious goal. Such an ambitious goal. I wrote an article once in my local community, which was for the schools. And it included social media and the control of it. And nothing has happened since. From 2021 till now, nothing has happened since. There is just no control. It's also the expectations of what children are seeing online. And then, subconsciously now I want to live that life. But we don't address it. And that's what's affecting them. But anyway, I wanted to add to your list of why you said people don't go to other people. What about trust?
Oh yeah, there's no trust.
What,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
if
mean,
someone
especially kids
is,
and adults. That's what I'm going to say. I work with kids and adults, right? Like, and that's a, the chill. I mean, that's what we hear all the time. I don't trust you. I don't believe you. I don't think you are going to
yeah,
do anything for me.
yeah. Like if someone has let me down in my life, whether it be a peer, whether it be a teacher, whether it be my own parents, why should I trust you? Because now automatically, I'm gonna be like, no, I'm gonna be let down again. So how can I open up to Dr. Z now? Because she's probably going to do the same thing, that Diana did to me. So I'm never going to trust again. I'm never going to be open with anyone again about my feelings or what's going on with me.
So
It
the
is such a
difference,
tough issue.
right? So the difference, what we do compared to like that one time with that person, is we actually repetitively go back, right? If we know that this one, I'm going to explain on one kid, right? Like if there's one youth, one adult, one youth, one child, we will go repetitively back to help that situation. Because trust is built, it's more than 3 to 5 times you have to go back to that individual. That's how therapy works also. It's after 5 sessions. I mean, Diane, please tell me if I'm wrong. After 5 sessions is actually when you could see your patient come out and speak just a little bit on what you're trying to do, on the work that you want to do with them. Less than 5 sessions, you're never going to get anything out of an individual because they have to trust you.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough one. And the schools that you work with, is it public schools or is it private schools or is it both?
It's across the board. It was across the board. We worked with public, private, public sector. Like it was across the board. And then a lot of them
And
were
is
just
it, no, sorry, I was just going to say, is there a
a lot
difference?
outstanding individual meetings. So like one teacher would just invite us for one thing.
But
Dr.
is there
Z,
like a difference with the children from public to private and how they
Yes,
think, how they
100%.
open about, certain topics?
Demographic, socioeconomic class, privileged versus underdeserved, all of that. There's all of these conversations are different, and there's a difference in attitude. I mean, I
And where's
remember.
your most,
Sorry,
oh no, sorry, you can,
we
no,
had
no,
one.
no, no, you can finish what you were saying.
No, it's okay. We had one conversation where we were recording students in a musical theater group. And these were high school students. And the students who were recording were actually high school students who were helping us to do this project that we had to do with them. And the young man who was behind the camera, who was recording, he comes from a underdeserved community, immigrant child, escaped his country because of some sort of, not just socioeconomic, but some sort of torment there too. And he's listening to these high school students. And after we were done shooting, he came to me and he said, I want to go on camera. And I said, sure, let's do this. And he said, he goes, certain kids don't know how great they have it. And they just keep saying things and complaining. When I say something, I'm told that I need to just shut up and sit down. And it is a difference of conversation because he said, look, their problems aren't less than our problems, but they don't know how good they have it. And then I said, hey, why don't we put you and this other individual on camera together? Now let's have a conversation. That's how you're going to change the conversation. That's how you're going to change certain people to start trusting other people. That's how you're going to change the racial disparity. That's how you're going to create equity, is when you do these conversations, because the adults in their lives actually separate them. The privileged kids will be like, oh, we're not supposed to hang out with you. We're not supposed to talk to you, because of the adult separation. The kids know nothing. So that trust starts at a young age. Again, you got to start them young with these conversations. Everyone's like, oh, protect your kids and don't talk about this. I'm like, so when they're 25 and they already have an opinion, you're going to talk about it? Where are we going to stop the discrepancies and the equity and the racial disparities if we don't start these conversations early? Again, goes back to teaching empathy, teaching kindness, and teaching the basics of humanity. But we haven't done that.
The thing is, like adults need to stop thinking all the time, just because I'm older than you, I know more than you, so I'm going to dictate to you, what to do and how to think. That also needs to stop.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, that's the message we need to get across. Easier said than done.
Oh, of course. Much easier
said than done. That's the message we need to get across.
Dr. Z.
No, because I'm just thinking, I'm thinking like, oh no, sorry, I just got one more comment. Like, when we talk about listening, to children, it's like when you're 10, at 10, you already know, deep down what I want to do with my life for the rest of my life. There's already something that's hit me to say this specific topic or this specific career, but then it's not taken seriously by the adults, But if we listen to, what if I don't have my children in the right school? What if my child is more technically minded, than academically? So I should actually put them in a school that's more for technical individuals instead of being in a school where I'm, getting taught, economics or whatever. That
so
also, for me,
these are individual conversations with the families. This isn't something easily you can do. So it's an economic status. I mean, it's like, okay, so your kid's in the creative arts, right? And it likes performing arts. It's an affordability thing, right? Not a lot of public schools have access to these, and not a lot of parents have the financial means to put them in schools that give them that priority. Again, I'm talking globally also, right? In schools in South Africa, in India, in Japan, in England, in any country you look at, Australia, these kinds of schools are more private based, right? There's a economic feature that you have to give to them. What I would tell parents is, there's so much access out there. I'm gonna tell you a simple thing. My son, he'll kill me that I said this one day in my life, but he is musically inclined. But he goes to a public school. They just have launched a music teacher who I hear is fantastic. But my daughter does vocals also. I asked her vocal teacher, what can I start him in? He plays the guitar, but what can I start him in music composition? How can he create beats? What can he do? You know what he said to me? You have an iPad, right? Use GarageBand and start letting him click and create his own compositions. There's so much access out there, even if your son is or daughter is technology savvy. There's so many apps. There's so many. Google has free things. Like you could find so many things on your own, but you as the adults have to go and find it. Don't just hand them something on a technological level and just say, here, do it. Sit with them. Sit with them and figure it out together. I mean, young children, basic things, start typing. There's all these programs that are for free out there. So
exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. I was going to also bring it up. I mean, you could learn anything online these days if you just go looking for it. And I mean, you could even use artificial intelligence. Like I went on to Grok, when Grok 3 was launched. Like I went on a Grok and I'm like, I want to learn more about entertainment law. Which websites can I go to? And it gave it to me one by one. It even gave me like real life, case studies that happen in courts, referencing entertainment law and disputes that happened and what was the outcome and what each party said. There's platforms such as Ellison. You go on to Ellison. You were talking about, learning music, how to compose. You go on to Ellison, and all you're going to search for is music production. And then you're going to have about, 10 to 20 courses that come up,
Yeah.
introduction, diploma, degree. And you can select one of those, and then you can start learning. It's all out there.
Dr.
So
Z,
100% agree
was
with
there an event in your life that catapulted you into your passion? Was this something that you were thinking about when you were in your younger years as well, or when you were getting your medical training? Or how did you, I guess I'm asking, how did your passion get lit in your life?
I've always been great with kids. I think when I was younger, first of all, just to find my own voice, it took me some time because of certain things in my life that happened. I think that recognition of not having a voice as a younger child or a young adult, I recognized later when I did do the work I'm doing. But I think working with kids was always kind of the passion. I know when I decided to go to medical school, I remember telling my father that I want to be a pediatrician. And I want to work with kids, right? I don't think I knew what child psychiatry was, to be very honest. I don't think that was you knew about internal medicine, you knew about ER doctors, you knew about certain things, right? I don't think psychiatry working with kids was something that I wanted to do, or I had a clue about it. But I knew I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I told my dad, and I was like, I want to go. You're compassionate. You've raised with empathy, so you're like, I want to go across the globe and help kids and make them healthy, and do doctors across borders type of thing, right? So my dad was like, great, that's amazing, let's do that. And I remember I think this was my first rotation in pediatrics or something, and a young baby came and was very sick, and when you're in clinicals, it's a little, there's a certain amount you are allowed to be with the patients, you're not. And I think we saw our first baby pass on, which I think broke me, as a physician, as a human being. I don't want to see kids die. That's not the reason I got into this. I want to save lives. I want to do this. And as I started figuring out where I wanted to go, when I did psych, there was something there that my mentor at that time said, you have something special when it comes to listening to these kids. It's just very interesting how you sit down with them, and it's funny because he always says you go to their level. I'm on the ground with them. I don't sit in a chair and just I'm on the floor with them. I'm gonna hold them. I'm gonna give them what their need was. And again, I was an intern, or I think it was my first year of residency. I was like, they didn't need someone above them to dictate to them. They needed someone. And he said, you have this intrigue way. My family now tells me, when my nieces and nephews were growing up, I was extremely involved. I don't remember all these, but as a teenager also, I was very involved in their lives, in giving them advice, giving them guidances. And the adults in our family were like, you were always there. You were the big cousin and sister and, older aunt who everybody went to. And I was like, really? And now my nieces tell me, you were an influence in our lives, a huge influence. And I think that really, when I was working and when I was doing, and I decided that, okay, I'm going to now do, child and adolescents, I really wanted to just really get that compassion back to the youth, to give them compassion, because I felt like they lost it. They didn't feel anyone had love and compassion and empathy for them. And as a physician, it was even harder, right? Because they didn't trust you. They thought you're the one who's going to tell them that they're so bad, worse than what everybody else was telling them. And that's not what I wanted to do. And I think that was the point where, when my teacher told me, or my mentor told me, is my attendee, and he said, you have a way that not many physicians do, and you just open arms to them. And I think to this day, it makes me cry, because when I sit with kids, all I want to see is hear them talk. I don't want to say a word. I just want to hear you talk. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your laughter. I want to hear you cry. I want you to have an emotional feeling, so then I can give you what you need from me, not what I need to give you. what you need from me. And I think that was the turning point for me, was like, then remembering my own childhood and what I was looking for in my mental health journey, in my emotional wellness journey, through my trauma, and what I did not have and what I knew I needed. I took that to that place for these kids.
Are you comfortable at all to share a little bit more about that personal mental health journey?
Well, mine was really extreme. I grew up in Southern California in a very prominent neighborhood demographically, upper middle class. I was awkward. I was dyslexic. My parents, I couldn't read till I was 7 years old. Nobody really recognized that I had both, I had a high level of dyslexia on both sides. And I was, there was a lot of bullying. There was sexual trauma. I was abused for many years. Unknowingly, my parents didn't know. They found out later in life, which put me in my own, I tried to commit suicide twice myself, once in middle school, once in high school. And I think coming out of that and finally finding my growth through one of my teachers who actually caught my dyslexia, right? And then gave me guidance as to educate myself, finding those growths. I wasn't the smartest kid in school, but I did grow. But the other social emotional stuff that was happening community wise, or the bullying wise, or the other trauma that I was going through, didn't help the fact that I didn't have anyone to go and talk to. Well, and you have to remember, in the 80s and 90s, going to a therapist wasn't the norm. And especially coming from a South Asian family, oh my God, if I said I had something going on, and seeing a therapist was like, no, you're fine. Like, I'm going to beat it out of you if I had to. But that also, I think, was the growth that I saw when I went to med school, right? I was so determined to help other children who didn't have those adults behind them to get the help they needed. Later, you find out that there's such mental health history in your family. Now, as adults, we all talk about it. And what I love is, this was the most best thing. My son, who is 8 years old, he sees a therapist himself, is talking to one of his best friends at school this past week about how they both go to therapy and how great it is. And I sat there, and my husband and I were like, this is amazing. I don't care. It's cool to see a therapist. Good. It's cool. That for me was such a dynamic change from where I was at 8 years old, where if I even mentioned that I needed help or talking to someone, it would have been someone yelling at me and traumatically telling me I'm wrong. I'm just, that's progress, right? Even if it's such a small progress, that for me is time changing, because I didn't have that. And I think that is what we want to see, right? And I think that was the moment for me now that I go back to that 8-year-old girl and say, okay, there's a change.
That it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
You're inspiring.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't need inspiration and accolades. I need change, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're growing for. I don't think any of us, we love it. It's great. But I think the change for me is more of the accolades I'd like to see.
Yes, yes. So, as you know, September is Suicide Prevention Month.
Yeah, I know.
Could you perhaps list, I don't know, a few things that we can do as individuals, as youth, parents, teachers? What can we do to help prevent suicide?
So one thing I'm going to say is keep your eyes and ears open. I tell this to the kids also too, and we talk about this even when it comes to the school shootings, right? Like if you're seeing something, keep your eyes and ears open. You will, as teachers and adults and coaches and mentors and principals and youth leaders, you will always notice that there's something off about someone, right? And if you see that, and I say off because the kids use those words, but you'll see something, approach them, talk to them. Don't do it once, don't do it twice, do it 5 times. 5 times. Keep going back, because at some point or another, that trust factor will be there, and that young youth will, or human being or adult will open up to you. Keep your eyes and ears open and keep going back. Unfortunately, we have lost 988 in multiple states and multiple countries. Keep your phone number available for them. Give your phone number out. If you want to help, keep your phone number out. Sometimes you won't be available, but that's okay. Let them text you. Let them know you're available. And I think the third thing I would say is, don't disregard someone just because you think they're okay. People are holding things inside, and on the external surface, they're not okay. Or vice versa, if you see someone not okay, don't hold it against them. Ask them how they're doing. You never know what's happening in a person's life. Kindness and empathy and compassion will go yards to prevent suicide. A smile on someone's face and a hello will make a difference. I think those are my three.
Yeah. At what point would you recommend or think that, in terms of a young person who's been reaching out to another young person out of concern and going back to them and perhaps sharing their phone number, showing care, kindness, compassion, at what point would you think that if there's no change, right, there's still worry there about how that other person is doing, that a teacher be notified or a parent be notified?
Well,
I know that's delicate,
right.
but when should that happen?
So I think it is hard for a young youth to identify if a young youth immediately needs help and stuff, because there's a big trust factor there, right? You don't want to break your friend's trust. But I think at a point, if there's a third conversation happening and you're not seeing it, I think first that young peer should go to their parent, because their parent or their teacher or somebody as an adult they trust, right, to bring up this conversation. Because I think at that third try, if you're not getting something or you have received something, it's just for you to open up to someone to say, hey, I'm dealing with this. There's this person. You don't have to give names or anything. What do you think I should recommend to do? Because you do need guidance sometimes from someone who is a professional who has the background to give you guidance. And then I think at the same time, once you're having that listening conversation with the adult needs to look and say, okay, are these things, and you know, I think we have multiple websites that we can go to that the adults can look at. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Now we need to contact someone, right? So it has to happen. But when I'm saying the adult talking to the youth and trying to reach out to them, you should definitely see those immediate signs and symptoms right away to identify, does this person need to be contacted to their parent now? Do we need to go to a therapist? Because that's an immediate that you have to see. I think it's hard for kids to see that within themselves. But I would tell multiple kids on the third try, when you're talking to your friend or someone you're reaching out to who you feel like may need help, I would go right away to an adult. An adult you trust, right? I don't want to say just go to your parent and go to a teacher, because you feel like, who do you trust that you can tell this conversation to? And it could be an older brother or sister who is an adult. It could be an older cousin. It could be a friend that you already talked to who's an adult. Because I have multiple kids who come to me but don't go to their parents and will ask me certain questions. And then I have to be the adult to say, hey, do I need to bring this to their parent or whoever we're having this conversation with?
Earlier on,
next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Earlier on, you had mentioned about AI and turning to AI.
I've never mentioned turning to AI. I do not recommend anybody.
That's exactly what I'm leading into. Let's say the young person is turning to AI for their mental health treatment, or the young person is Googling or putting into AI, my friend is upset, what should I do to help my friend? What would you say about a young person turning to AI for that kind of help?
Friends who are helping friends don't turn to AI.
That is a great catchphrase. You should
Friends
make a
helping
bumper
friends.
sticker about that. Serious. Say it again. Friends, right?
Friends helping friends don't turn to AI or ChatGPT. You can use both of them. I don't care the words they use.
Yes.
The kids who are turning to AI to get mental health help or help in any situation, where are your parents? Where are you, adults? Because I
On
understand
AI themselves.
maybe,
They're on
but
their own phone.
I have to be very, very, I hate saying this, but I'm very blunt in my conversations. If your son's on AI, then you're not parenting them. If your child is going to talk to AI about suicide ideation or mental health illness issues and how to treat themselves, and now you want to sue AI, where were you? Where were you listening to your kids? Where were you didn't see them? Again, I get it. Parents, you all have a lot on your plate. 5 minutes of a conversation, 10 minutes of a conversation. Access to your children is more than you have, than anybody else has. We're tired. We're exhausted. We're working our butts off. All of this I agree with. You feed them, you clothe them, you put them in a car, you can have a conversation with them. If you need 5 minutes of mental health and a phone, they need 5 minutes of a conversation. If you need 10 minutes or 20 minutes on a television, they need 10 to 20 minutes of a conversation. I'm sorry. I want my child to survive and live. So I'm going to go to them before I need to go watch a comedy show or maybe even have a glass of wine.
If parents want to, I think we're encouraging them to do this, to have listening conversations in their homes, right? How would you suggest they start that practice and to make it into a daily or more than daily practice?
So with young kids, I always say there's 3 times a day you could do this. In the morning when they're having breakfast, have your coffee, sit with them. If you can't because you're running late, all right, now let's do it once they come back from school, right? I'm talking about young kids first, right? The ones that are elementary school. You're sitting down to do their homework with them, or if you're not at home, they have access to a phone, just have a quick conversation. But I would say the best time is dinner time. Your children, even if they're not all eating together because someone has dance, someone has basketball, you are going to feed your child at some point in the day. Put your phones away, put everything away, and start with 5 questions. What did you do that was the most exciting thing today? What was the most hurtful thing you heard or said or was someone said to you? What was the most interesting thing that you saw today? What can I do differently that I did today to make a difference in your life? And the 5th question is, are you happy? Are you sad? Now we have kids who don't actually emotionally express themselves. Put a chart up. Can you go point to what your emotion today was? These are simple questions. These aren't exciting yet, but you will go from there to the next question, to the 5th question. You may not even get through all 5 questions because you may be on 1 question and then you have a 20-minute conversation. For older kids, it is definitely the dinner time, the TV time, or right before they go to bed. Phones away, out of their bedrooms, sitting on a table. And here's the other thing. At 15 and above, or 14 and above, or 13 and above, you got to do it multiple times every day. And you've got to be consistent with it. You cannot skip a day until a pattern is created that they actually know that they can talk to you without interruption, without judgment, and without blame and shame. They're going to come to you over and over again. With our teenagers and our young adults, you have to have it multiple times. You have to do it consistently until they feel we can come to you over and over again. Again, unjudgmental, unconfrontational, and without blame and shame.
And if the young person says, "Oh, Mom, I'm okay," or why are you asking me these questions?
And go, because I need to know that that I'm not okay with you being okay. I need you to like sit down with me and like, we need to, but again, you're asking the wrong questions. See, if your child is saying, I'm okay, and why are you asking me this? Then you need to change the questions. Because then you're not communicating with them. You're just sitting there and hearing them, but you're not interacting the conversation. That's why they're saying that. So scratch what I just said before, because I think I spoke too quickly. One of the things you need to do is an interactive conversation with them when they say that is ask another question. There are so many cards out now. It's called talking cards. Citizens of Humanity has come up with the whole thing for just conversation. There are so many conversational cards. Parents, just go pick 5 cards from there for teenagers that you can just launch conversations. It doesn't have to be social emotional. Hey, what are you watching on TV nowadays? What's the new and in show? How does that show make you feel? Oh, what's the late, your kids are on social media. You know this, right? Like if you're a parent what's the latest TikTok thing? Go to their level. Can I try it with you? I know I'm old and I can't do it, but can I try it with you? What's the new latest song or music that they're listening to? Even something else. What's the latest trend at school for shoes? What's the latest trend for hair color? I don't know. Like I'm again, you know your child and what they're into or not into to create that conversation. And they're gonna look at you like, why are you weird? Do it again. Do it again. Oh, I still can't get anything out of them. Then you need to find a new set of questions. I told one parent, which she did, it was really cute. I said, have you started doing dinner nights with her? Not at home. Have you started taking her out? They went on 5 dates. 5 dates. And her daughter started choosing the restaurants moving forward. Every Thursday night, she'd take her daughter out for dinner. She found the time. She was a very high executive in the entertainment industry. Her daughter's thriving now. You as the adult have to find the right path. I can't give it to you, but I can give you the basics for it, right? But it goes back to you. What do you want for your children? And to create the listening communication advantage, you have to do the work. Because at 14 and onwards, they've already set their ways because you missed the opportunity. That's why I tell parents for young kids, start early. I don't give up on the teenagers or the young adults. You still have the access to them. You still can create it. And then parents who now have adult children, you're like, oh, I don't have relationships with my kids. You can keep trying. Reach out to them, text them.
Or maybe not what do I want for my children, or what do my children want for themselves?
Well, they don't know what they want from themselves because they need to know you're there to help themselves. So that's why I asked, what can I do for you to make your life easier? What can I make the change? Because I think the young youth, what I have heard from them, this is what I've heard is, my parents and my adults are constantly telling me what my mistakes are. What am I doing wrong? How am I doing it wrong? Where do I need to make the change? What do I need to do? But my adults aren't listening to how their words, their actions, their things they say to me are affecting me. I am being constantly dictated to, but I am not being listened to. And if
Once
they
again,
start,
how the system is designed.
I'm sorry?
It's designed that way.
That's what we're trying to change.
Yeah.
If we say racism was there from the beginning, but we don't want to change it, we got to go work at changing it. We got to work at changing it. If the design was always there, why can't I change the design? Architect was architects. They change them all the time. I'm the architect for my child. I'm the architect for the next generation.
Yeah.
If I don't change the design now, 20 years from now, there's not going to be a change. I got to change the design now.
So important what you're sharing, Dr. Z. I'm especially now the art of conversation, the art of engagement, or life affirming connection with each other. It's just really being lost, right? With profound negative implications. You know, each time excessively turning to that cell phone rather than turning to a real live person in your life is a detriment and dangerous. So want to thank you so much, Dr. Z, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Have any penultimate words for us, right?
Take time and listen to someone today. You don't realize how much of a difference you'll make in their lives.
I'm taking your words to heart.
Well, it's been a pleasure listening to you.
And Dr. Z, how can our audience learn more about you?
So we're on all social platforms, and it's Dr. Z _MD. We are launching our YouTube channel soon, and we have a website, which is Dr. Z _MD, to reach out to me if you would like me to come to speak at your school, help you with a Listening to the Kids program, or if you would like for any corporate sectors that are looking to how to create new communication with the new generation in the workforce and the workplace. You can catch me through the website or even DM me on Instagram or TikTok.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, like, on your website, is there like material available? You know?
So no, not yet. We're building that out. We're creating that, and we actually have a new website coming out that we're working with someone actually in South Africa who's helping me build my new website. So I'm actually really excited about that. And then material will be built. So the problem is just to get material, you have to still implement the project and the programming, right? And that is a technique that you have to learn, because listening is also it's a part of learning. And so we like to go in and do it face to face. That goes back to you have to learn communication. So we like to do in-person events rather than just say, oh, here's the paperwork, go do it yourself.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking is, like, I also prefer, the face to face, it's more effective. But like, say now, like me in South Africa now, I want to go to a local school and be like, look what Dr. Z is doing in the States.
Yes.
Can we implement this here?
Right. Right. We have access to that program. We would just do a Zoom call and we would give you all the guidances, and then you could perform it yourself. And there's a fee to that. That's it.
Nice. Perfect.
Thank you again, Dr. Z.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.